The hospital alarm trilled in the distance, and for a split second, I wasn't sure if it was the monitors or the pounding of my own pulse in my ears. My palms were slick against the latex gloves, but it wasn't the ICU heat or the strain of 12 hours on my feet. It was the number glowing on my phone screen. $3,850. A single unauthorized charge that hit like a scalpel to the chest. But it wasn't just the number. It was what it represented, a 5-star luxury resort booking in Thessalia, Greece. The names flashed across the screen like betrayal etched in digital ink. Richard Vale, Lillian Vale, Spencer Vale, Reagan Vale, Megan Tanner. All family. All supposedly unable to contribute when I couldn't afford to join them. My name wasn't anywhere on the reservation. I froze in the corridor, the lights overhead humming like judgment. Around me, nurses moved briskly, carts wheeled by, a patient monitor beeped softly, unaware that my world was cracking like glass. It was supposed to be just another routine night shift, just another evening of stabilizing lives, monitoring vitals, adjusting for drips. But now my own pulse was the most erratic of all. I could still hear my mother from last week, seated at the head of her pristine dining table, surrounded by crystal and linen napkins folded with militant precision. The resort is nearly $800 a night, Karen. If you can't pitch in, maybe it's best you sit this one out. She had said it with a flick of her wrist, like dismissing me was as routine as checking the time. I had nodded. I hadn't told her I'd just paid Spencer's overdue auto insurance or that my savings were already gasping for air. I hadn't told her how much I wanted to go, not for the sun or the sea, but to feel like part of something. To be invited. But this wasn't just exclusion. It was theft. The kind of theft that wasn't clumsy or impulsive. No, this was calculated. A deliberate act buried under months of practiced smiles and empty reassurances. My fingers steadied as I called the credit card company, my voice calm, precise. Lock the account. Report the fraud. Begin the dispute. I recited the details with clinical precision, as if rattling off a patient's deteriorating vitals. But this patient was me. And for the first time, I wasn't going to wait until the code blew. The woman on the line, calm and confident, confirmed what I needed to hear. Miss Vale, we'll handle it. This is clearly unauthorized. 30 minutes later, my phone buzzed again. Spencer. Hey, something's wrong with the hotel booking. Can you check? My reply was mechanical, yet cathartic. Like you said, I stayed behind. My fingers moved fast. Every password changed. Banking. Email. Amazon. Apple ID. Everything secured. I even reset my hospital login, paranoid now about how deeply they'd infiltrated my life. The hospital corridor felt different now. Not brighter, sharper. Like everything had been unwrapped and I could see the truth at last. The next wave came fast. Calls. Texts. From all of them. The phone buzzed like a dying insect in my locker pocket, vibrating with desperation. What's wrong with you? Dad's furious. We'll lose the reservation. Fix this now or don't bother coming for Thanksgiving. I silenced the phone. Locked it away. Let them panic. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't. I wasn't the nurse who always picked up the slack, the sister who always bailed them out, the daughter who made quiet sacrifices for people who never even noticed. I wasn't the woman who quietly paid the balance when mom's card was declined at brunch, or who helped Reagan with her boutique's business license fees while pretending it was a gift. I was just Karen now. And Karen was about to burn everything down. That night, I stayed after my shift. Not for overtime, not for paperwork. I just sat in the break room, sipping lukewarm coffee from a paper cup and listening to the hum of the vending machines. The neon buzz was a strange kind of comfort. Dr. Sato passed by and paused. You okay? He asked, eyebrows furrowed beneath his surgical cap. I smiled, a hollow thing. Getting there. He nodded once. You always do. When I finally drove home, the streets were nearly empty, the city cloaked in a velvet silence. I let the silence sit, let it wrap around me like armor. I didn't turn on music. I didn't call anyone. I didn't answer the missed calls. Because I was done explaining. Done defending. Done apologizing for being the responsible one. The dependable one. The one they assumed would always clean up their mess. As I pulled into my parking spot and shut off the engine, I stared out at the empty sidewalk, lit by the dull glow of a flickering street lamp. A thought echoed in my head, louder than anything they could say. They didn't make a mistake. They made a decision. The next morning, I woke to silence. No birdsong, no neighbor's barking dog, no traffic. Just the sterile hum of my refrigerator and the weight of something new, resolve. I sat at my kitchen table, still in scrubs, hair unbrushed, coffee growing cold in my favorite chipped mug. My phone was already buzzing again, the names flashing like a deck of guilt-riddled playing cards. Mom. Spencer. Reagan. All with the same hand. I didn't pick up. Instead, I opened my laptop and began a search through old transactions. My bank's digital history, neat as a ledger, offered timestamps, names, amounts. And patterns. That's what caught me first, the patterns. 180 here for boutique supplies on Reagan's launch day. For 150 for car repairs the same week Spencer went on a ski trip. Another 75, 72, 99, scattered like breadcrumbs. Breadcrumbs I had paid for. One by one, I began labeling the expenses. Every Venmo transfer. Every bank withdrawal. Every vague, I'll pay you back when I can note that I had ignored in favor of keeping peace. My stomach twisted when I saw the total so far. Over $6,000 across 2 years. And that didn't count the cash I'd handed over at holidays, birthdays, or during those desperate late-night calls. And then came the email. Subject, urgent account review. From Marcus Patel, fraud specialist, Interwest Credit Union. Karen. We've completed a preliminary review of the disputed transaction. Please be advised that the luxury resort booking was made through a secondary user profile associated with your account, recently reactivated using your personal credentials. The account used to belong to Spencer Vale. My breath caught. I stared at the screen until the letters blurred. He hadn't just stolen. He had planned this. 4 months ago. Long before the invitation was extended. Long before the dinner where I was politely told to stay home. This had been in motion. Quiet, like rot under floorboards. I called Marcus. We're still investigating, he said, his voice gentle. But I thought you should know, there are earlier charges. Small ones. Starting right after that account was reactivated. Electronics. Sporting goods. Restaurants I'd never eaten at. It wasn't a one-time mistake. It was a pattern. I want to pursue this to the fullest extent, I said. Understood. After the call, I stared out my apartment window. The city below moved on, oblivious. Traffic crawled. People walked. Somewhere, Spencer and Reagan were probably lounging on a beach, sipping cocktails on money stolen from my pocket. I opened my notebook and began to write. Not a journal. A log. A ledger. A record. April 3rd. $300, Spencer's emergency dental visit. May 12th, $160, Reagan's boutique display upgrade. June 1st, $75, Dad's surprise anniversary dinner tab when the card glitched. Date. Reason. Amount. Every penny now had a name. By the end of the day, the total was closer to $7,400. And I was only getting started. I began recording everything. Not just transactions or receipts, but memories, those quiet moments I had brushed off, now crystallizing with a clarity that felt surgical. Every family dinner where I was handed the check, every phone call that began with concern and ended with a request. Every moment I swallowed my needs to keep peace. Each sacrifice layered like gauze, suffocating beneath the weight of expectation. By midweek, my document had swelled to 17 pages. I highlighted overlaps, like how Spencer's temporary layoff had coincided with my bank transfers, even though his LinkedIn profile showed him promoted during the same period. Reagan's tear-streaked calls about business emergencies were now juxtaposed against her public posts flaunting new collections and spa retreats. My parents, once the architects of morality in my childhood, had not just looked away. They had handed over the keys. The bank's fraud team grew increasingly involved. Marcus updated me twice daily now. We've pulled logs, metadata, IP addresses. The logins were all made from two IPs, Spencer's home and your parents' lake house. Lake house. I hadn't been invited there in over a year. My nights were restless, dreams stitched together by guilt and disbelief. I would wake at 3:17 a.m., pulse thudding, the weight of rage pressing against my chest like a defibrillator paddle. In those moments, I didn't feel betrayed. I felt invaded. I bought a small fireproof safe for my apartment. I placed inside it the printed statements, a flash drive with all digital records, and a notebook with my annotations. It was paranoia turned practical. I began to wonder how much of my life had been altered without me noticing. Had they ever intended for me to be part of this family, or was I always just the safety net with a heartbeat? The climax came that Thursday. I was walking back to my car after the night shift, the parking lot still cloaked in shadows, when a figure stepped from behind a column. Karen. I froze. Spencer. His face was drawn, the bags under his eyes not from guilt, but from panic. What are you doing here? I asked, keys clutched in my fists like a weapon. We need to talk. You mean confess? He flinched. You're blowing this out of proportion. Mom and Dad are worried sick. Not about me. About exposure. About the fallout. They always worry about appearances first. He shifted. It was supposed to be alone. Then why didn't you ask? Because you would have said no. That admission, bare and pathetic, sucked the wind from my lungs. Not because it was cruel, because it was true. He never gave me the chance to say no. You used me, Spencer. I needed help. You needed consequences. He tried again, his voice cracking. I'll pay you back. Not all at once, but it's not just about money anymore. It's about who I am when I'm around you. All of you. He backed away, his posture slumping. You're really going to do this to the family? No, I said. You already did. I'm just finally refusing to clean it up. He left without another word. I stood there for a long time, staring at the empty space he left behind, the sun just beginning to peek over the horizon. It didn't feel like victory. It felt like mourning. Later that day, I emailed my documentation to a lawyer who specialized in family fraud. Her assistant called within hours to schedule a meeting. And that night, for the first time in weeks, I slept without waking. The lawyer's office wasn't what I expected. No marble floors or intimidating glass towers. It was a quiet, converted brownstone nestled between a bookstore and a flower shop, the kind of place that whispered confidentiality. The receptionist was soft-spoken and efficient, ushering me into a warm, sunlit room that smelled faintly of lavender and old paper. Her name was Anna Cordell, and within 5 minutes of meeting her, I knew I was in the right place. She read everything. Every line of my ledger. Every bank statement. Every screenshot and printed email I had collected like bones from a crime scene. Her expression never changed. She asked questions, precise, quiet, surgical questions that cut right through the emotional clutter and went for the facts. When she finally looked up, her verdict was calm and absolute. This is financial exploitation, she said. It might not be prosecuted as a criminal case, but you have every right to seek civil action, especially given the misuse of your personal credentials. What would that look like? I asked. Demand letters, formal recovery, potential mediation. If it escalates, court. But it starts with you deciding if you want to go public within the family. I did, because silence had protected them for too long. Anna helped me draft the letter, sterile, professional, and precise. No accusations. Just facts. A formal demand for repayment, accompanied by my documentation and a 30-day deadline before legal proceedings. That night, I sent it. To Mom. To Dad. To Spencer. To Reagan. I half expected the city to shake when it landed in their inboxes. Instead, there was silence. For 2 days. Then, a knock at my door. It was Dad. He looked older than I remembered, like the weight of legacy and expectation had finally turned to stone on his shoulders. He didn't step inside. He didn't ask to. Your mother's not taking this well, he said. She never takes accountability well, I replied. We thought we were helping you build a future. No, you were building yours. I was just the scaffolding. He nodded slowly. I didn't know it had gone this far. You were in the photos. At the resort. On the yacht. Paid for with my card. His silence was all the confirmation I needed. I'll talk to Spencer, he said finally. Maybe we can come to some kind of agreement. This is the agreement. It's already in writing. I closed the door before he could answer. The next wave came through the grapevine voicemails from Aunt June, vague Facebook posts from Reagan about betrayal, and one long message from Spencer dripping in condescension masked as apology. You're going too far, Karen. Families don't sue each other. Think about what this is doing to Mom. What it was doing to Mom. Not what it had done to me. The hospital, once my only sanctuary, now became the eye of my storm. Nurses whispered, trying not to pry. Dr. Sato left me a fresh coffee every morning with a post-it that read, Solidarity. Then one evening, while I was prepping a patient for discharge, I got the call. Marcus from the bank. Karen, we've concluded our internal review. We've identified a dozen more unauthorized transactions dating back further than expected. You're not the only victim. My stomach turned. Who else? An account under a lease veil. We believe Spencer used similar methods. Her claims are now under active investigation. Elise, Spencer's ex-wife. I remembered how she'd vanished after the divorce. No public drama. No explanations. Now I understood. She had pulled away not just from a marriage, but from a trap. I found her email that night and wrote, I know what he did to you. He did it to me too. If you're willing to talk, I'm ready to listen. She replied the next morning. Let's compare notes. The files she sent cracked everything wide open. Statements, emails, text messages, dates that aligned perfectly with the charges on my account. He hadn't just taken. He had practiced. Spencer was a repeat offender, a professional within the family web, and I was done being his test subject. The meeting wasn't in a courtroom or at a family table. It was at Anna Cordell's office again, this time in a conference room that smelled faintly of wood polish and something sterile. A clock ticked too loudly. The light from the window fell in harsh stripes across the table where I sat with Anna on one side. Across from me, Spencer, Reagan, and my parents. They looked like a family caught in a storm, not remorseful but irritated that the rain had finally soaked through their carefully constructed umbrellas. Anna opened with poise. This is a mediated conversation. Our goal is clarity and resolution, not hostility. Reagan immediately scoffed. This whole thing is absurd. We're family. Families help each other. No, I said calmly. Families don't drain accounts and lie about it for months. Families ask. Families respect. Mom reached for her pearls, a tick she did whenever cornered. Karen, you're painting us like criminals. You used me, I replied. For years. And when I finally drew a boundary, you questioned my mental health and tried to sabotage my job. Dad cleared his throat. We understand now that things went too far. Spencer leaned forward, voice measured. I'll agree to repay half. Anna didn't flinch. The demand is full repayment, $9,540, by certified check within 30 business days. We've waived interest and punitive damages in the interest of a swift resolution. Reagan's eyes narrowed. You want to destroy your own brother over a few charges? I looked at her, really looked. The brutal poise, the rehearsed innocence. You were part of it. You used my card. You lied. And now you're angry that I noticed. Mom's voice cracked. Karen, we were trying to build a better life for everyone. No, I said. You built yours on me. And I'm done holding the foundation. There was no shouting. No dramatic exit. Just a long silence. Then Spencer stood, eyes lowered. I'll pay it. Anna nodded, crisp and businesslike. We'll await confirmation. The meeting ended. 3 weeks later, the check arrived. I stood in my kitchen, holding the envelope. There was no note. Just a certified check for the exact amount. I placed it on the counter beside a candle I'd lit that morning. It felt symbolic. Final. But closure isn't a moment. It's a process. I deposited the check and immediately transferred half into a high-yield savings account. The other half I donated to a local support fund for caregivers. People like me who often forget themselves. Elise and I stayed in touch. We met for coffee once a week. She showed me how she rebuilt after Spencer. I told her how I was just beginning. I moved apartments. A new building, keyless entry, no shared walls. No one else had the code. The silence wasn't empty, it was mine. Dr. Sato recommended me for a lead role in the new ICU expansion team. When I got the offer letter, I cried. Not because of the job. Because someone finally saw my worth without taking from it. On a quiet Sunday morning, I framed two things: the deposit slip from Spencer's check and a copy of the first page of my ledger. I hung them above my desk. Not trophies. Not scars. Just reminders. Of boundaries. Of resilience. Of what I owed myself all along. The phone still rings sometimes. Family trying to reopen old doors. I don't answer. Instead, I step out onto my balcony, breathe in the city air, and let the silence hold me. Because peace isn't a gift. It's something you reclaim.